Hello YouTube and the Tribes of the Horror Realm. This is a video response to our buddy the Tattooed Doorman's video challenge, which is mainly just how did you get into horror? Like, what were your earliest roots or exposure that made you like this genre? Now, I guess I've always been interested in some aspect of like horror, sci-fi, what have you. Everyone's familiar with it. You know, back in the day, they used to do the baby books where your mom and dad would, you know, keep clippings of everything you did and all that. You know, from your birth on. And in my baby book, my mom had wrote that the two things that I was interested in when I was really young were trucks and monsters. And needless to say, I have no idea about camshafts or alternators or rebuilding engines, but I know monsters, so I've always liked them. Now my grandparents, my mom's from Japan. My grandparents, so obviously, you know, hey, Godzilla, kaijus, all that sort of stuff. So early on, my grandparents sent me a book. There was a TV show called Utaroman, or Ultraman, and it was, if you're not familiar with him, he was a guy that was on like the Science Police, and he was able to change into like a giant superhero. And he fought all sorts of different types of giant monsters, kaijus. And she actually sent me a book of all the different monsters. And I actually, to this day, have it right here. So that's Utaroman, and so actually my mom had gone through when we were younger and told me all the names, so I would write all the different names of these creatures on there. So it was just kind of a, she would read stories of different things about the creatures from this book. And years later I still own it. It's been beat up, it had to be rebound, but I still own it. Also early on, you know, like any kid we'd watch Saturday morning cartoons, and one of the very first ones that influenced me was Where Are You, Scooby-Doo? I'm talking about the original one, and that's the original one. If you YouTube it for the original music, it's really hip. It's definitely 70s, but it's a da-da-da. Scooby-Dooby-Doo, where are you? You know, that's like, it's not the New Adventures of, it doesn't have the stupid little puppy Scoop, and it's none of that crap. It was all done with a real, like, horror bend to it. You had beady, yellow-eyed people. I mean, granted, there was always someone wearing a mask or something that would have got away with it if it wasn't for the meddling kids. But back then, you know, to see green-skinned ghosts and glowing, you know,
eyes.
Yeah, you know, or glowing deep sea diver ghosts and, you know, what have you. It was just pretty cool, and I watched them religiously. Also, back in the day, our local UHF station used to show syndicated movies under the banner Creature Feature. Or, depending on how they set it up, they would do the Creature double feature. So, you know, sometimes it would be like from 12 to 2, there'd be the Creature Feature. The 2 to 4 might be Kung Fu Theater. But then they change programming, and then they dedicate 4-hour block to the Creature double feature. And I used to watch it all the time. Unlike some areas that, you know, I know other people have had exposure to Creature Feature. Ours never had a horror host per se. Not in studio.
Yeah.
they had one of the radio TV personalities, Dale Doorman, basically talk through an echo machine and introduce whatever the movies were of that day. And they would have a montage of different monster movies, or scenes from the movies. Later on, they ended up syndicating The Son of Svengoolie out of Chicago, Illinois. So that was our exposure to horror hosts. That was probably in the maybe the early mid '80s. We also had another channel was Elvira's late night show that aired probably around midnight. But because of Creature Feature, I was introduced to all the Universal monster films, all the Japanese, the Godzillas and the Gamera movies, the Hammer horror film library, even the Vincent Price American International Picture films. So I pretty much gobbled them all up. And when I was a kid, I had more of my favorites. The more out there that the monster was, the more I was going to like it. But as I got older, my tastes refined that I could really admire a well-told story with a lot of atmosphere. But that's some of the early roots. How about you? Don't have a lot to say.
I'm sorry. Well, my horror roots stem from actually watching Creatures of the Future when I was a young child. And then, after that, as I grew up, I kind of stepped away a little from horror movies. And then when I got into my late teen years, I started going to the movies with my friends. And I remember the first horror movie I actually saw in the theaters was Hand That Rocks the Cradle. Back then, it was a horror movie. And then from then on, I just used to watch anything on TV that was based on horror or anything like that. But then when I met Chris and I found out his love for horror movies, my love for the genre grew even more intense. And then you know what happened from there. I used to see any horror movie, whatever, ones that I hadn't seen and ones that were more intense, and he was the one who showed them, and then from then on, that was it. My love for horror grew more intense than it was before.
I don't know. Hand the Rock the Cradle was always a thriller to me.
Whatever. It was a horror movie to me. It scared the shit out of me.
Of course, we also had the '80s, which was the VHS era. And I had a couple places in town I could go and rent movies, and I saw all sorts of outrageous box art, and there were movies that I just would curse that I could never get because they were always out. Films like Lucio Fulci's Zombie, always saw the box, but the tape was never there. Drove me up the wall. It was at the time it was called Return of the Alien. The Deadly Spawn, which is obviously just the Deadly Spawn. They were just working off the craze of the Alien movie.
Finally got the movie, honey.
Several copies of it. But when I finally got to rent Return of the Deadly Spawn, I held on to that thing like grim death. I don't care about any late fees. I was holding on to that and watching the shit out of that film. But all those big box videos I used to rent all the time. So I was fortunate to see them there. I still even have some of my VHS that I used to buy. I have a cut box of Hellraiser that I still have. Actually, I think Doug Bradley might have even signed it.
Yeah, I think he did.
But I still have that just because it was like one of the early VHSs that I had picked up. I had a pretty good sized VHS collection, but when I went to DVD, I pretty much just got rid of it. And
Except for Halloween.
Well, yeah. look at the video now. It's friggin' and everyone's collecting VHS again. But I just couldn't keep lugging these giant boxes of VHS everywhere. Yeah, and of course I collect the Halloween copies still. But and so and it segued from there and expanded into reading a lot of the horror literature like Henry James, Edgar Allan Poe, H.P. Lovecraft, Stephen King, you know, Jack Ketchum, all that stuff. Um, you know, watching whatever I could, experience all the different stuff, and then even getting to know a lot of the people that produced or started this thing by going to conventions and and networking with fellow YouTubers. We met a lot of great people because of that, and as Horror as Ball says, hold on to a notebook and write down the stuff you need to pick up. So I do that, and I have my list of movies I still have to search out. So more stuff that we can sink our teeth into. So that's pretty much the history. It started off with watching giant monsters and having pop-up books and stuff like this, and then into cartoons, and then just syndicated rebroadcasts of old films, which is why we love Universal so much.
Yep.
So we've droned on long enough, and to coin the phrase, thank you very much for watching.
Bye.